To many people, black metal is a sacred thing that cannot be touched by the outside scum, the plebeians. And so naturally in the past decade or so, specifically the past 5 or 6 years, there's been sort of this growing concern and controversy surrounding normies or people from the outside looking in, taking aspects from black metal aesthetically with visuals and stuff, or just outright listening to it, that has made a little people go off their rocker. And so I wanted to make this video as a little bit of an objective look at why black metal has never been mainstream in the way that a lot of people don't want it to be. Now you can argue in any way you want, whether you think black metal should be mainstream or you think no one should listen to it and it should stay 10 listeners or below. Regardless, if you're one of the people that think that black metal should stay idiosyncratic and buried in the subterranean level of the earth, rest assured black metal in my opinion has never been mainstream in the way that you think it is. I don't want to use the term problematic, but I do think it's kind of stupid when a lot of people from the outside looking in borrow attributes and symbols from black metal culture that can be a little damaging or destructive without knowing the full history or context of it. You see it a lot of times with certain forms of corpse paint, specifically pagan corpse paint or things that have ties to pagan culture, or adopting some of the imagery of pagan black metal stuff because it looks cool or it looks quirky or it looks aesthetically pleasing. I'm looking at you, TikTok. I'm 100% looking at you. And then you have pretty big celebrities in different spaces, YouTubers, musicians, using black metal fonts, using black metal imagery, putting corpse paint on, or people using corpse paint as sort of this aesthetic. But the reason why black metal has never been mainstream is there has never been a point in its entire history that it has ever been put in front of the mainstream in any way that has not been diluted or watered down in some form or fashion to be digestible to some degree. Projects like Death Heaven brought a lot of people into the fold, but they are not that extreme. They are not hardly what you would expect from most classic black metal music. And a lot of the crossover acts that get people into black metal music, Dimmu Borgir, Cradle of Filth, Opeth to some degree, they are not that extreme. They are not that heavy. They are not that brutal and intense in the grand scheme of things. If anything, at points they're very inoffensive and widely appealing. And when it comes to black metal culture, most people don't have the full picture of what it is. They might know Varg by name. They might know that he burned a church or he killed a dude. But outside of that, their only experience with black metal culture is probably going to be through Lords of Chaos. That put black metal on the map for a lot of people, and a lot of black metal purists and purebloods were upset about that because they didn't want that story going out to the public, let alone being so commercialized and romanticized in the way that it was. And that's exactly what it was, romanticized. Are there portions of it that are accurate, that are objective? Yes. But if you look at the testimonies and interviews of the people that were portrayed in that film, as well as do your own research on the topic matter, you can see that it was heavily over-exaggerated, heavily portrayed in different ways, and it was made and played out like a fucking blockbuster movie because that's exactly what they were going for. They were wanting to make it larger than life, and they were wanting to make it something to gawk at and to Google at. Outside of that, people could not tell you who the fuck Varg is, or Necrobutcher, or Euronymous, or any bit of the complex gray area that the entire Norwegian scene embodied. They couldn't tell you the different scenes in Europe. They couldn't tell you the difference between American black metal and European black metal. That just wouldn't make any sense. They wouldn't know the complexities of anti-religious sentiments in black metal and how that revolutionized a lot of metal. They wouldn't know all the crossover hybrid genres. They wouldn't know the struggle between a lot of the European countries at the time. They don't know where black metal fucking came from, how it came from the act of outsider culture and all the different politicking that happened on the inner workings of it. And the biggest reason that black metal has never been mainstream is the vast majority of the crossover bands and the things that are put in front of these people that borrow black metal as an aesthetic are so much more underground and true cult than they could ever hope to realize. These people don't know what the term true cult means, and even though I've gone on the record saying that true cult is a fucking dumpster fire of an idiotic term that just should not exist, I don't really agree with it. I understand why it exists, and I understand the desire to keep some sort of proficiency and true culture to the whole thing, and they don't know what that means. Black metal mainstream versus black metal underground is perhaps different than really any other metal genre, because there have been points in history where different extreme metal genres were put in front of people. Death metal is a big example of this. The Tampa Bay and overall the Florida death metal scene was put in a lot of people's eyes guys. You had Jim Carrey talking about Napalm Death live on television. You had Napalm Death and Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse being in the lexicon of metal music, being shown on Beavis and Butthead, shown on MTV, being talked about by celebrities. It was pretty taboo and it was controversial, don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of the most popular death metal bands were also pretty true to the culture and really good approximations of what death metal could entail as a whole, whereas the crossover bands that get mainstream popularity in the grand scheme of things for black metal, they are nowhere near the sort of credibility and proficiency that a lot of the underground or even the classic black metal bands played in, and most people are not going to have any indication of what the difference is or what that means, considering that black metal has been this simultaneous thing where it is a taboo, polarizing topic that people like to gawk at and stuff, but do most people actually know about the culture behind it, the figures behind it, and just how much went into it, and how difficult it is to wrap your head around and ascertain the complexities of? No, I don't think that's true whatsoever. Do I think it's a little stupid for people to borrow imagery and symbolism from black metal when they don't know the first thing about what they're taking from? I do think that is stupid. I don't think you should necessarily do that. But if a bunch of normies want to put corpse paint on or make merchandise with a black metal logo, I promise it's not raining on your parade, and it's not going to make black metal come into the mainstream, because the bands that are going to be considered mainstream are probably not bands that you see as real black metal anyway. So the black metal that you are trying so adamantly to defend, if you're like just a true blue purist, it's not going to be infiltrated. No one's going to come to that. No one's going to find their way to that except for a very small sliver of the people that use those initial bands as gateways. Other than that, I cannot see a reason that a lot of the true cult black metal that you want to defend with your life, like your life fucking depends on it, I don't think anyone's just going to stumble backwards into one of those underground bands. That is something that you absolutely have to find yourself over time. What are your guys' opinions of this topic? Do you think black metal has ever been mainstream, and do you agree or disagree with what I said in this video and the overall topic matter? Agree or disagree? There is no wrong answer. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.